Actually, you rightly said Margaret would have been here. I'm just trying to step into her shoes, but you cannot tell the story of somebody better than the person herself. Because definitely you cannot tell all the horrors she went through. We are looking at women who have gone through the thick and thin, who have tried to pierce through the barriers at the time when they went through it. So you'll bear with me that I will tell someone, I'm not telling my own story, Mr. Moderator. I'm telling you the story, and I'm celebrating the life of those women who have made it. Because definitely there's a difference between me and Margaret and all the women that were listed that we are celebrating their lives today, who went through all what they did. The question, I'm sure when Tricia got to this point, the evolution, because in the book it will talk about the impediment, the legal impediment. Perhaps she was just wandering around. Why is it that women came a little bit late into the scene? What is it that hindered women? Because by the time all these women came into the scene, men had already been there. I mean, in the parliament you have men were ministers, men were engineers, men were pharmacists, men were lawyers and magistrates. You had no one. What was the impediment? I'm sure wandering around, I remember she was just wondering, was there any legal barrier? Was there anything that prevented women, that inhibited women from getting into the different fields? And one of the things we were looking at was the legal field. That is not the only field. There were many other fields that women never figured. Just take for example in our parliament. It was all a male-dominated parliament. Take pharmacists, you will not find any woman. Take the medical profession, medical doctor. So much so that there was this profession became known. I mean, when we were growing up, we looked at it as it's a male, it's a profession, there are professions reserved only for men. And I'm sure if you look at the lawyer's wig, the legal wig, the wigs are grey, just indicating the grey hair of a man, because at that time I'm sure they didn't imagine. If women had come into the profession early enough, I think Nene colleague here, the wigs that we wear would have taken a different form. Just indicate. So to say, were there any impediments to answer your question? Were there any legal impediments? No. There were no legal impediments. We thank God that our laws in Cameroon, so to say, it's not as discriminating because we have the opportunity to read, to see what operates in other countries, but our law in Cameroon gives women as much equality, as much, especially in education, as the men. Because our constitution is in its preamble, says that any customary practice that is repugnant to natural equity and equality is bad. Rather than talk about legal impediments, there were no legal impediments. We had more of cultural impediments. We had more of the traditional setup that stood as a barrier to the woman. And when now we're letting tell that story, when I look at it in this book, you can only draw inspiration from somebody who has succeeded, who has made it. When you look at a female medical doctor, you want to become one. When you look at even a nurse, a female nurse, you want to become one. There were no role models. There were no incentives. Women had such low self-esteem of themselves. So much to that in legal on even today. If let us just permit me to just go out. Take example, if you just go to the real traditional setting, where even there is a traditional meeting. When a woman comes into this hall, maybe there are seats in front here, she will want to sit behind. You will have to pull her to come to say no, and say what you pass and she will tell anybody. Because she's not confident of herself. She lacks that self-confidence. There's nothing to listen to imagine that she would even dare into that profession when it was all male dominated. And that was the case with the legal profession. Until now, when this stepped in 1966, to break through that barrier, there were no women in the legal profession. Like I said, not because the law prevented them from becoming lawyers and magistrates, because they could not imagine. That's not education. the privileged sons. They're not to talk your father thinking of sending you far away to Nigeria to go to attend a secondary school. Because why there was no secondary school. Nowadays it's easier. You're forced to send your children to school because the schools are just at the back of the house. At every time of the corner there is a school. Then one of the inhibition for that there was no secondary school. The first secondary school that came in by the was opened by the missionaries was purely made for boys. Sase and CPC. Okoyon came in later in 1956 when Sase and CPC were already existing. So the few women who were there, whose parents, I don't know how, we should be celebrating the life of the parents of these women. That even agreed, that even accepted that they should go to Nigeria and study. And when they went to Nigeria, most of them, if you read their history, they went to teachers training. That was the most they could go. All of them went through teachers training before finding their way abroad. But now the first woman who entered there into the legal profession, she said when she came back home with her teacher's grade 2 certificate, she's a teacher original teacher by profession, she refused. She said teaching was not enough for her. She knew what she wanted. And where did she get all this? Because she got exposed. And I'm sure when she went to Nigeria, she saw other women. She saw some role models. That's why I said one of the impediments was because we didn't have any role models. We had no incentives. We had all of these cultural barriers standing in the way of a woman. So when when she came back from Nigeria as a teacher, she told herself that she's teaching is not enough for her. She wanted to do something better with herself. She wanted to do something through which she can help humanity. So she said she decided, imagine knowledge is important, of great importance. You need to have that knowledge to know exactly where you are going. Even if you want to go somewhere, but you don't know where to go, can you get to that place? She said she knew that she could do law. She could even do law by correspondence, and that there was a center here in Cameroon. She knew exactly where to go and register. And that's why she went and registered and got herself enrolled. And when she came back, imagine, that's the first country she went through. To be able to, first of all, she developed some self-confidence in her. She knew that she could make it. She dared. So when she had a degree, she went to London. When she came back, one of the easiest things that women always do, we want to find an easier way. I will not say that it's easy to enter and to do my university, because the job is my university. It's a much easier way. You write a concours, and when you pass, you go in there. We are of the official bar. Official bar is different from the private bar. They who sit here, they can even bear witness, because you do it all by yourself. So when she came, they asked her, the door for my university was open, but she had to do 2 extra years. After having been admitted into the bar in England, again, that's where we celebrate her. She refused to wait 2 years in a nun after having been admitted into the bar. She refused. She turned around to look at the other side of things. It was not easy. Going into private practice then, when no woman had dared, she came that she dared it and went into private practice. And no other woman came after her until 10 years after. Can you imagine? And that's why when she started to talk about her husband, because she wasn't even discriminated against. Because most potential clients will not come to her. When they look low on women, they thought that she wouldn't give them a good advice. She will not defend their cases well. What can this woman say? First of all, she's not there. She's talented. So what can she do? They said all sorts of things against her. But she went on. She refused. She was unstoppable. She said nothing can stop her. And she made it. And she made it big. And she has made it big. Congratulations. I want to continue congratulating her. She was always congratulated her. And it's because she opened the door. She opened the front gate. When women started entering the legal profession, They were encouraged to enter the legal profession. Many more women like us followed much more later. And it's when there was a flood of women in the legal profession, we turned and looked behind and realized how far women have come. But the same thing, the same ignorance in which women we were, we thought that we could do something to better the life of other women, to encourage the other women. Because one of the reasons why women got into the legal profession today, because they didn't have that self-confidence. They had such low, they thought that they were living under oppression. You know, that's oppression that you go through oppression, not knowing that you are under oppression. So, and that's why, like Tricia mentioned in her book, FIDA, the International Federation of Women Lawyers, was created. Thanks again to Marweleti. This goes to the credit of Marweleti, because as I said, as a female lawyer, she attended most legal conferences, and when she attended one of these legal conferences, she came into contact with the International Federation of Women Lawyers. When she came back to Cameroon, she rallied most of us, she rallied most of the female legal practitioners so that we could come and form the branch, the chapter here in Cameroon. Indeed, that has helped not only the women in the legal profession, it has helped so many other women. Because as women, we understood very much more the plight of other women. In fact, we as legal practitioners, we have to educate ourselves. We have to liberate ourselves before even educating other women. Indeed, what is this book that Tricia has written is such an eye-opener. I mean, it's encouraging. And that's why I want to encourage each and every one of us here present. Please avail yourself of the copy. Through the women in the legal profession, can you imagine if the women were not there? There are some areas of the law that would have gone unnoticed. But when women came into the profession, we started looking at those areas of the law that touches the women's rights. And one of those areas was the civil status registration ordinance that was so wrongly interpreted, especially by the men, men of the legal profession. And we had to make a seminar to educate all the civil status registrars in Cameroon, in the northwest and in the southwest provinces. Because when democracy came into existence, I mean, the gates were open, even a mechanic could become a mayor, and automatically as a mayor, you became a civil status registrar. That you could celebrate marriages without any pre-knowledge, without being trained. And that's why in the marriage certificate, there were so many errors that were made. And because of those errors that were usually interpreted in the favor of the man, the interpretation was usually in the favor of the man. I will give you an example which you did mention in the book, which is the law on civil status registration says for Article 77 says you can only reform the bride price. Only the person who receives the bride price can reform the bride price. In our tradition, with the woman, does the woman receive that? The wife, the bride price pays to the wife. The woman doesn't receive the bride price. The bride price is paid to the father, or the person who stands as a father to the bride. But there is this case where the judge, where it was the customary court, asked that woman to pay back the bride price. And when the matter came on appeal, the Court of Appeal confirmed that the lady had to pay the bride price because that's the tradition of the people. He failed to take into consideration that law. Why? Given his own background. What did he prevent? So we had to organize another seminar for judges and magistrates. It was an eye-opener. We went through all their judgments. We picked out all their judgments. Those discriminatory judgments that they gave. We read the judgment during that seminar, and they look at themselves in the mirror of their judgment. Most of them were torn. Because even in some of these judgments, a judge will ask that one of the things that were listed to be returned to the man was even a cup that the man got to prepare for the court. A cup that the man got to prepare for the court. And I mean, they failed to even take into consideration all the years with that man. The woman pregnant, that in this case they stayed for 18 years. During that 18 years, the woman acted as the cook, the housekeeper, the washerman, the babysitter, you name the rest. While the man went out at night, the night work was there. He went out during the day work was there. He came back and left his clothes, the washerman was there. But they asked her to refund the bride's price, including a cup. That was I mean, that was the most capital of judgment with. I will make that judgment available. And looking at those judgments, the men judges were like very hard on the women in divorce cases. Because why? They came back to look at their background, where they are coming, all of us are coming from the political, from a traditional setup, where the man is always the Lord, the man dictates, the man determines the fate of things. And that's why the judgment was not a reflection of their background. But we brought the civil status ordinance. There is a law, not that there was no law. There is a law that governs the civil status of people. But they didn't take time. You see, it shows the overshadowing power of our culture. So when we brought it into the limelight, it changed things completely. And now the judgments are different. And most of the time, the civil status, when we organize seminar on the civil status rate, for the civil status registrar, most of them will not even bother to ask the woman what regime, because when you have two people appear before you when you're celebrating a marriage, everybody, you have to ask the parties, they have a right to choose the regime. But most of the time, it was always the man. They asked the man, what regime, polygamy, that was all. The woman was, his or her opinion was inconsequential. We brought all of this out during the seminar, and behold, all of them confessed. Most of the civil status registrars confessed that they made this error, and most of the time because they didn't even know. And they would write in, enter the marriage certificate, enter monogamy according to the traditions of the Manyo people, according to the traditions of the Bakundu people. When it goes to court, the judges, they interpret it that marriage is potentially a polygamous marriage. They will not go forth, they will not try to look at the intention of the parties at the time that marriage was contracted. So all of this, there is a lot of evolved because why? Many more women enter the legal profession. We did organize seminars only for the judges and magistrates and for the civil status registrars. We organized seminars also to educate all the women, especially the uneducated women, of what their own rights are. We want to thank God that at least God gave us the opportunity to enter this, to get into the profession, not only for ourselves, to be of help to other fellow human women folk, to the women folk, to improve and enhance their status. Please, I will just conclude by dealing with all of you that don't leave this place without getting a copy of this book. There is much more to it that we can tell at this conference that we can summarize. Please, getting the book will not only help you, but will also help a friend or help